Detective Samuel, no nonsense. Jackson leaned back in his worn leather chair, feet propped on his desk, when a frantic knock echoed through his office. The brass nameplate on his door, slightly askew, read, Detective Jackson, Specialist in Suspicious Activities. Come in, mother. He caught himself, remembering his therapist's advice about workplace professionalism. Friend. Come in, friend. A young woman burst through the door, mascara streaking down her face. Detective Jackson. You have to help me. It's gone. It's all gone. Jackson straightened in his chair, his experienced eyes scanning her body language. Trembling hands. Disheveled hair. Classic signs of a severe crisis. Ma'am, take a seat and tell me exactly what happened. Leave nothing out. Every detail could be crucial. It's my phone. She sobbed. I had it at the coffee shop this morning, and now it's just gone. My whole life was in that phone. Jackson's eyes narrowed. He pulled out his notepad, his trademark purple pen poised to write. Let's start from the beginning. What time did you arrive at the coffee shop? Around 8:30. And what did you order? He leaned forward intensely. A vanilla latte with oat milk and an extra shot? Interesting. Jackson scribbled furiously. Very interesting. And did you notice anyone suspicious? Anyone watching you too closely? Perhaps someone with a particular interest in smartphones or technological devices? The woman blinked. Well, there was this weird guy who kept looking at his watch. Aha! Jackson slammed his hand on the desk, making her jump. Time checking. Classic surveillance technique. Did he have any distinguishing features? He was wearing a FedEx uniform. Even more suspicious. Hiding in plain sight. Jackson stood up, pacing the room. Now, tell me about your movements. Did you use the restroom? Make any calls? Take any selfies? Actually, yes. I went to the bathroom around 9:15. Jackson spun around dramatically. And did you take your phone with you? No, Her face fell. I left it on the table. Check your pockets, Jackson commanded, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. But I already. She stuck her hand in her jacket pocket and froze. Oh my God! Slowly, she pulled out her iPhone, wrapped in a napkin she'd apparently stuffed in there absent-mindedly. Jackson sat back down, a knowing look on his face. The case of the missing phone. Tale as old as time. They always forget to check the damn pockets. The woman stared at her phone, then at Jackson, then back at her phone. I can't believe I was so sure. Listen up. Jackson leaned forward, his voice intense. What we witness here today, this ain't just about a phone. This is about the human condition. We get so caught up in our fears, our assumptions, that we forget to check the simple things. The obvious things. He stood up again, walking to the window. You know how many cases I get like this? People thinking their keys were stolen when they're in their other hand? Folks convinced their glasses were taken by international thieves when they're sitting right on top of their heads? The woman nodded slowly, still looking embarrassed. But you know what? Jackson continued, turning back to face her. Sometimes the most suspicious thing is our own damn minds playing tricks on us. That'll be $50. $50? To find my phone in my pocket? Jackson raised an eyebrow. You're not paying for the time it took to find the phone. You're paying for my years of experience knowing exactly where to look. Now, would you like a receipt? As the woman left his office, slightly dazed but with her phone safely in hand, not pocket, Jackson returned to his chair. Another case solved. But before he could fully relax, his office phone rang. Detective Jackson speaking. Oh, thank goodness. Detective, you have to help me. Someone's been breaking into my apartment and rearranging my furniture by half an inch. Jackson sighed, picking up his notepad again. Here we go again. Detective Jackson stood in Ms. Patricia Henley's living room, measuring tape in hand, his face a mask of intense concentration. The 68-year-old retiree hovered nearby, wringing her hands. And you're absolutely certain, he growled, that this coffee table has moved exactly half an inch to the left? Yes, detective. I measure everything in my apartment daily. Everything has its proper place. Ms. Henley gestured at a thick binder on her perfectly centered coffee table. I keep detailed diagrams of every furniture placement. Jackson flipped through the binder, his eyebrows rising steadily. Every piece of furniture was documented with military precision, complete with distance measurements from walls, angles of placement, and even shadow patterns at different times of day. Ma'am, he said, pulling out his purple pen. This level of documentation is... He paused dramatically. Impressive as hell. He began his investigation, moving through the apartment with measured steps. His trained eye caught everything: the slight indentation in the carpet, the barely visible scuff marks on the hardwood floor, the imperceptible dust patterns around the furniture legs. When did you first notice these disturbances? He asked, shining his flashlight under the sofa. 3 days ago. First, it was the coffee table. Then the reading lamp moved 2 centimeters to the right. And just this morning, her voice dropped to a whisper, I found my favorite armchair had rotated exactly 1.5 degrees clockwise. Jackson straightened up, his face serious. And you live alone? Yes, except for Mr. Whiskers, my cat. Jackson's eyes narrowed. Your cat? Tell me about this. Mr. Whiskers. Oh, he's a dear. 9 years old, loves his afternoon naps, absolutely adores. Ma'am, Jackson interrupted. Does Mr. Whiskers, by any chance, enjoy scratching himself against the furniture? Ms. Henley blinked. Well, yes, he does. But surely you don't think... Jackson moved to the coffee table, crouching down to examine the leg. With expert precision, he pulled out a single orange cat hair. You see this, Ms. Henley? This is what we in the business call evidence. He stood up, pacing the room with measured steps. Let me paint you a picture. Mr. Whiskers, 9 years old, established routine. He gets an itch. A serious itch. The kind of itch that needs immediate attention. But he's also a cat of refined tastes. He's not going to scratch just anywhere. Jackson approached the armchair, gesturing at its slight rotation. He picks his spots. The coffee table leg? Perfect height. The lamp base? Just right for that hard-to-reach spot. And this chair? He ran his hand along the armrest. Premium scratching material. Ms. Henley's eyes widened. But the measurements. The precise distances. Physics, Ms. Henley. Simple physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When Mr. Whiskers puts his full feline force into a good scratch, that furniture's gonna move. Maybe just a little, but for someone with your attention to detail, it's enough to notice. As if on cue, Mr. Whiskers sauntered into the room, stretched lazily, and proceeded to rub himself against the coffee table leg, moving it exactly half an inch to the right. Ms. Henley gasped. Oh my, you've solved it. But what can I do? I can't have my furniture moving around willy-nilly. Jackson reached into his coat and pulled out a small package. Anti-slip furniture pads. Industrial strength. Used by the pros. He handed them to Ms. Henley. Apply these to the bottom of every furniture leg. They'll keep everything in place, no matter how enthusiastically Mr. Whiskers expresses himself. Oh, thank you, detective. You're a lifesaver. Ms. Henley clutched the furniture pads to her chest. How much do I owe you? Standard rate. $50. Jackson adjusted his tie. Plus $10 for the pads. As he left the apartment, Jackson could hear Ms. Henley already opening the package, muttering measurements to herself. In the hallway, he pulled out his phone to check his messages. 3 new cases awaited: a missing TV remote, probably in the couch cushions, a mysterious water puddle appearing daily on a kitchen floor, likely a leaky ice maker, and a woman convinced her plants were growing at different rates. South-facing window, case closed. But before he could choose his next case, his phone buzzed with a new message. Emergency! My gym socks keep disappearing from the dryer. I think it's a sock-stealing ring operating in the building's laundry room. Jackson sighed, already knowing it would turn out to be static cling, but he'd investigate it with his usual thoroughness anyway. After all, that's what made him the best damn everyday detective in the business. Detective Jackson stood in the building's laundry room, his keen eyes scanning the row of industrial dryers. Behind him, Brad Thompson, a 25-year-old fitness enthusiast, paced nervously. So let me get this straight, Jackson said, pulling out his trusty purple pen. You're missing exactly 7 right gym socks. Not pairs. Just right socks. Yes. And they're not just any socks. Brad ran his hands through his perfectly gelled hair. These are premium moisture-wicking, ultra-cushioned, anatomically designed right-foot-specific athletic socks. They cost $15 each. Jackson's eyebrow arched dramatically. Right-foot-specific socks? Damn. This is more serious than I thought. He pulled a pair of latex gloves from his pocket with a decisive snap. Show me your laundry routine. Every detail matters. Brad grabbed his laundry basket. Okay, so first I separate my gym clothes by color and performance fabric type. For the next 20 minutes, Jackson watched intently as Brad demonstrated his elaborate laundry process, taking detailed notes and occasionally muttering, "Fascinating," or "Just as I suspected." And then, Brad continued, "When I take them out of the dryer, the right socks are just gone. Like they vanished into thin air." Jackson approached the nearest dryer, running his finger along its rim. "Tell me about these other residents you suspect. The ones you think are running this sock-stealing operation." "Well, there's Mrs. Rodriguez from 3B. She's always doing laundry when I am. And that guy Mike from 4A? He works out at the same gym I do. He could be copying my sock game." Jackson pulled out a small LED flashlight and shined it into the dryer's crevices. "And have you noticed any suspicious sock-related behavior? Underground sock trading? Black market athletic wear deals?" "No, but—" Brad started. "Hold up." Jackson raised his hand for silence. He leaned deeper into the dryer, his flashlight illuminating something in the gap between the drum and the housing. With expert precision, he pulled out a small tool from his coat and reached in. "What is it?" Brad asked, leaning forward eagerly. "Evidence of the sock-stealing ring?" Jackson straightened up slowly, holding something in his gloved hand. "You could say that." He held up a neon orange athletic sock. "Right foot. Moisture-wicking. Ultra-cushioned. That's one of mine!" Brad exclaimed. Over the next 10 minutes, Jackson systematically checked each dryer. One by one, he retrieved 6 more right-foot socks from various machines' mechanical gaps. But how?" Brad stammered. Jackson put away his tools and turned to face Brad, his expression deadly serious. "Let me break it down for you. These high-performance socks of yours? They're made with specialized synthetic fibers. When they heat up in the dryer, they create static electricity. More static than regular cotton socks." He began to pace, warming to his explanation. "Now, these industrial dryers spin at high speeds. The static-charged socks get pulled toward the metal drum. Sometimes, they find their way into these gaps." He gestured at the dryers. "It ain't no sock-stealing ring. It's physics, pure and simple. But why only the right socks?" Jackson's eyes gleamed. "That's where it gets interesting. Your right foot-specific socks have a slightly different weave pattern to accommodate right foot anatomy. This creates more surface area, which means more static potential. Elementary, really." Brad stared at his recovered socks in amazement. "So what can I do to prevent this?" Jackson reached into his coat and pulled out a box. "Dryer sheets. Extra strength. The good stuff, not that bargain brand nonsense. Use 2 per load. And..." He pulled out another item. "This here's a sock clip. Keeps pairs together in the wash. Top of the line. Military grade." "Wow, thank you, detective." Brad clutched his recovered socks. You're incredible. Just doing my job. Jackson handed Brad an invoice. That'll be $50 for the investigation, plus $15 for the supplies. As he left the laundry room, Jackson's phone buzzed. A new message read, "Help! Every morning, my coffee cup leaves a perfect ring on my desk, but today, it's an oval. I think someone's breaking in and replacing my mug with a slightly different one." Jackson sighed, already knowing it would turn out to be a wobbly desk or uneven coffee consumption, but he'd investigate it with his usual intensity. After all, in his line of work, even the smallest detail could be a clue to solving life's everyday mysteries. Detective Jackson stood motionless in Sarah Chen's office, his intense gaze fixed on her desk. The morning sun cast long shadows across the wooden surface as he studied the coffee ring with forensic precision. "Walk me through it again," he commanded, pulling out a digital caliper from his ever-present coat. "Every detail matters." Sarah, a corporate accountant with perfectly manicured nails and an immaculate blazer, gestured at her desk. "Every morning for the past 3 years, I've placed my coffee cup in exactly the same spot. It always leaves a perfect circular ring. But today," she pointed dramatically at the mark, "it's oval. Someone must be breaking in and replacing my mug with a slightly different one." Jackson measured the ring's dimensions with micrometric precision. "Interesting. The ratio between the major and minor axes is approximately 1.2 to 1. He straightened up, his face grave. "Tell me about your coffee routine." "Well, I arrive at 8:15 a.m. sharp. I use my personal mug, white ceramic, company logo, purchased during the 2021 holiday party. I fill it with exactly 12 ounces of dark roast from the break room coffee machine, add 1 splash of oat milk, no sugar. And the mug's position on the desk? 6 inches from the edge, aligned with my laptop's right corner." Sarah pulled out a small ruler from her drawer. "I can show you the exact." "That won't be necessary," Jackson interrupted, already pulling a specialized tool from his coat. "This here's a digital level. Top of the line. Used by the FBI's Furniture Analysis Unit." He placed the level on her desk, his eyes narrowing at the reading. "Just as I suspected." He moved around the desk, checking various points. "Ma'am, what floor is your office on?" "The 14th. "Why?" Jackson began to pace, his hands clasped behind his back. "Let me paint you a picture. This building, like many modern structures, experiences subtle structural shifts throughout the day. As the sun heats the building's eastern face each morning, the materials expand slightly. This creates a minute tilt. We're talking fractions of a degree." He paused for dramatic effect. "Usually, this tilt is inconsequential. But combine it with a full coffee cup placed in exactly the same spot every day." He pulled out his purple pen and sketched a quick diagram. The liquid inside shifts slightly, causing the bottom of the mug to rest at a marginally different angle. When you lift the mug, the ring appears oval instead of circular. Sarah's eyes widened. "But why haven't I noticed this before?" "Ah." Jackson's eyes gleamed. "That's where it gets interesting. Yesterday's maintenance report." He pulled out his phone, showing her a building notice. They adjusted the HVAC system's pressure settings. This slightly altered the building's thermal expansion pattern. That's incredible." Sarah stared at her desk in amazement. "But what can I do? I can't have oval coffee rings ruining my perfect desk aesthetic." Jackson reached into his coat and pulled out a small package. "Desk leveling microshims. Aerospace-grade materials. Used by NASA to keep coffee cups perfectly level on the International Space Station." "NASA uses these?" "That's classified." Jackson handed her the package. "Place these under your desk legs according to the included thermal expansion compensation chart. They'll adjust automatically throughout the day." "Oh my goodness, thank you!" Sarah clutched the shims to her chest. "You've saved my sanity. All in a day's work." Jackson presented his invoice. Standard rate of $50, plus $30 for the NASA-grade equipment. As he left Sarah's office, his phone chimed with a new message. "Emergency. Every time I make toast, it comes out slightly more toasted on the left side than the right. I think someone's breaking into my apartment at night to sabotage my toaster." Jackson sighed, already knowing it would turn out to be an uneven heating element, or a tilted counter, but he'd investigate it with his usual thoroughness. After all, in his world, even the most mundane mysteries deserved CSI-level scrutiny. Detective Jackson stood in Marcus Wellington's kitchen, holding a piece of toast up to the morning light. His eyes narrowed behind his specialized toast analysis goggles, which looked suspiciously like regular reading glasses. "And you say this uneven toasting pattern has been occurring for exactly 2 weeks?" he growled, rotating the bread slice with forensic precision. Marcus, a 34-year-old software developer in Star Wars pajamas, nodded vigorously. "Yes. Every single piece comes out darker on the left side. I've tried different breads, different settings, even different outlets. Someone must be tampering with my toaster." Jackson placed the toast on a pure white plate and pulled out his custom-made toasting pattern analysis grid, a transparent sheet with measurement markings. "Walk me through your toasting process. Leave nothing out." "Well, first I select my bread, usually whole wheat, but sometimes sourdough on weekends. I always insert it vertically, with the bag time marks facing north. Then I set it to exactly 3.5 on the darkness scale." "Hold up." Jackson raised his hand. "You adjust the setting to 3.5? "Yes, precisely halfway between 3 and 4. It's the only way to achieve the perfect golden brown ratio." Jackson pulled out his purple pen and notepad. "And where exactly is this toaster located?" "Right here, next to the window. I need good lighting to monitor the toasting progress." Jackson's eyes narrowed as he studied the counter space. With deliberate movements, he pulled a small device from his coat, a combination thermometer, humidity sensor, and air current detector, which he definitely didn't buy from a home improvement store and relabel in purple ink. "Just as I suspected," he muttered, waving the device around the toaster. "We've got ourselves a classic case of thermal interference syndrome." "A what?" Jackson began to pace, warming up for his explanation. "Your toaster, positioned next to this window, is subject to a complex microclimate. When the morning sun hits the glass, it creates a subtle temperature differential. This causes a miniature convection current, which affects the heating elements in your toaster." He pulled out a small laser pointer and aimed it at the window. "See these dust particles in the beam? They're moving left to right, carrying cooler air across the right heating element of your toaster, while the left element remains unaffected." Marcus stared at him in disbelief. But I've had the toaster here for years." "Ah." Jackson's eyes gleamed. "That's where it gets interesting." He pulled up the local weather report on his phone. 2 weeks ago, they installed a new reflective window in the building across the street. That window now directs additional morning sunlight onto your window, intensifying the thermal effect. "Oh my God!" Marcus whispered. "It all makes sense now. But what can I do? This is the only spot that fits my toaster." Jackson reached into his seemingly bottomless coat and pulled out a small device. "Thermal Equilibrium Maintainer. Military-grade technology. Originally developed for ensuring even heating in submarine toasters." "Submarine toasters? That's classified." Jackson handed him the device, which looked suspiciously like a small plastic deflector shield. "Place this between your toaster and the window. It'll normalize the air currents and ensure even toasting every time." "This is incredible." Marcus examined the device in awe. "You're like a breakfast detective superhero." "Just doing my job." Jackson presented his invoice. Standard rate of $50, plus $25 for the classified equipment. As he left Marcus's apartment, Jackson checked his messages. His inbox was full of new cases: disappearing TV remotes, always in the couch, mysterious water rings on coffee tables, condensation from unnoticed cold drinks, and even a case of allegedly haunted kitchen cabinets that kept opening slightly, unlevel floor and loose hinges. But as he walked down the street, adjusting his signature sunglasses, he smiled slightly. In a world of high-tech crimes and complex conspiracies, someone needed to tackle the everyday mysteries that drove people crazy. And Samuel L. Jackson, everyday detective, was just the man for the job. Back in his office, he looked at the framed motto on his wall. No case too small, no detail too trivial, no curse words necessary, most of the time. Below it hung his most prized possession, his certificate from the Academy of Everyday Detection, slightly crooked because he refused to use a level, preferring to trust his detective instincts. His phone buzzed one more time. Help! My pencils keep rolling off my desk, but only on Tuesdays. I think there's a pencil-moving ghost. Jackson sighed, already knowing it would turn out to be the cleaning crew changing the desk angle while vacuuming, but he'd investigate it with his usual intensity. After all, that's what made him the best damn everyday detective in the business.
Tell us in the comments what part of this story impressed you the most. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next videos. See you in the world of incredible events.